I'm back with another video. I'm Sarah, and this is not a school project, so I can say whatever the hell I want to. I can say shit, bitch, fuck, pussy, dick. I'm not though, but I can because this is not being graded. So I have had this idea of like revamping my YouTube channel and like making it an actual thing where I make content that I'm proud of and I talk about things that I like, and I just never do, because when I do, I end up forgetting about it. But in my mind, I know that this time is different. I know that this is a special situation where I finally have time. And so, because I have applied to college. I've applied to college and I know I'm gonna get into one, and I know that I'm not gonna have to worry about it within like less than a month, because my early decision response comes out on December 1st, and it is currently the 13th of November as I'm filming this and probably uploading this, because I am the bitch to, I can say whatever I want, sorry. I am the type of person to film and edit everything in a day because I get really excited about it. And so I'm literally just gonna be looking at myself this entire time. Regardless, I'm sorry about the lighting as well. Everything in my room is really ugly when it comes to lighting. Don't even get me started on my overhead light. Look at this. It is so just bad. It's sickening almost. And so I don't want to put that on. And so I have my Christmas tree light and I have my little fairy lights around there. And I got my desk light pointing in that direction, so I have like backlighting, so it's not directly. Anyways, that doesn't matter. What matters is what we're here to talk about, and that is the Beatles. If you know me, like literally, if you have spoken to me once, you know that I like the Beatles. It is my main personality trait, and it has been for the past like year, because I've been like hyper fixating on the Beatles for about like a year, and so I decided to do a little thing that kind of, you know, my last video, it was the entire history of rock and roll, and that was pretty solid. I re-watched it today and it's really cringy, and I didn't mean for it to be so like cringe, but it is. So I wanted to step up my game and do something that I am like fully like 100% confident in, which is the history of the Beatles. I'm looking over here because I have my 6-page like manifesto that I've written out about the Beatles and their history. And so if I ever like look over here, like I'm scrolling through my notes because I want to make sure I'm covering everything. But other than that, you know, that's what we're here to do. And so I guess without further ado, we should get into it. I think editing me is gonna jump cut to like a little intro thing about the Beatles. Fair warning, all of this that I've written out is from my mind palace and my memory. I only sought out specific details when I was filling it out, like filling in the plot holes. But if there's something that is wrong in here, genuinely, I don't give a shit. I just think it's really funny that I've had this written out, and I've given this entire spiel like countless times, but I want to give it again in like video format because I can like edit it and I can like make it into whatever I want. But this is where we're starting. So it started when John learned how to play the banjo, and he was taught by his mother, but he wasn't allowed to see her. So he lived with his aunt, I'm pretty sure. And he realized that his mother lived close to him, and so he would go over to see her every now and then to hang out. And they had a very weird I got a text. They had a very weird like mother-son relationship, from like the little like all the information that John has given. And this one movie, I forgot the name of it, but I watched it, and the way that they presented their relationship was very odd. Anyways, so when he went over there, he eventually learned how to play the banjo. But yeah, then they had like this really Oedipus complex mother-son relationship. Like Sigmund Freud would have eaten them up. So at the age of 16, John gathered some of his friends and then they formed a band. And he attended this place called Quarrybank Grammar School. So obviously they named themselves the Quarrymen because it's as if I would like call my band like the Cavaliers. I don't know. Because they're so cool and swag. And so this band was just a group of like white guys because I mean like the Beatles were that too, but also like these kids were like nobodies, like true like feeble little like British children, teenagers, twats, dweebs, I don't know. But that was pretty much, that like lasted until 1957 when John played at a gig and at some place and Paul McCartney was there and he was so psyched about it, and then John asked Paul to join the band soon after, and they had this whole, they're known as like one of the best, most like famous songwriting duos, and it's for a good reason. They're like insane. And then a year later, George Harrison joined the band, and at this point they're all like between 15 to 17. And then 1960 happened, and that was the year of like the other random white guys. Some fucker named Stewart joined them, and then they changed their band name to the Silver Beatles, but the beetle part was still spelled like beetle, the like insect. But that was too like normcore for them, so they did like the quirky little thing and changed it to Silver Beatles, as we know now, the Beatles, but like crazy, like literally life-changing. So later, this dude, he's kind of important, named Pete, and then they dropped the silver in their name, and they're now just the Beatles. And then for 2 years, they played shows, and like they kind of made a name for themselves as the Beatles. And then at some point, Stuart Little leaves the band. That's not his name is just Stuart. Like literally no one cares about this guy. From what I've gathered, like no one mentions him in video essays or anything, unless you're like Paul McCartney himself saying like his name. It's not common to hear. Anyways, in 1961, this middle-aged man, Brian Epstein, finds some hope in them and then becomes their manager, which is really cool and really sick. And then 1962 rolls around, which I have a little thing. Let me just pull this out too. Sorry, I just need to show my prized possessions, which are my 2 true vintage Beatles records. This one is their compilation album from 1962 to 1966. And, yeah, I showed this in my last video. But since then, I got Revolver. I fucking love Revolver. It is the best Beatles album by far. Not gonna lie, I don't know. But you know what's really sad about this version is it's the American version. And up until 1967, no, 1970, no, it was 1967. Until like 1967, the standard American version didn't have, I just got rudely interrupted. So I don't know what happened there. But the American version of Revolver up until 1967 didn't have I'm Only Sleeping, which is my favorite song off of this goddamn album. So I'm a little bit tiffed that it's not on here. Anyways, my point being, before 1962, they have another compilation album, which has some of their earliest songs, and they're all pretty like, I love my girl because she's so stellar. Sorry, as I was saying, I don't even know where the fuck I left off. Anyways, so 1962 was their fucking year. I don't know what was in the water. But first of all, they signed their first contract, which meant they could record songs professionally instead of having like them recorded in like a living room. Even though some of the living room recordings are very good. This is the worst thing ever. So this guy named George Martin became their producer, in the year 1962 as well. And then later, Ringo Starr, motherfucker, I love him. He joins the band, and now they're complete. They're the four of them, the Fab Four. And then after that, he came to the band. They recorded their first single, Love Me Do, and it peaked at like 15 on the UK charts. And then 1963 rolls around, and then this is when she kind of starts to like pick up in their career. Their first album was recorded in only one day, called Please Please Me, and it was at number 1 for like 6 fucking weeks. 6 fucking months, sorry. And so now it's released in the United States, but it flopped. But they weren't discouraged by this because Beatlemania. In the UK, Beatlemania, fucking insane. Literally, like, oh, it was insane. These teenage girls were like in love with these 4 scraggly British guys, and not much has changed. So, speaking for myself, I still love these 4 scraggly British boys. I don't know what it is with me and obsessing over British men, but it is something that I frequently do, if you know me. But yeah, so they performed for the Queen at some point that year. R.I.P. Lizzie, always in our hearts. But yeah, so like lots of their amazing songs were on this record, like All My Loving, I Want to Hold Your Hand, and so many more. But then 1964 rolls around, and Meet the Beatles was released in the United States, which was a hit. It wasn't a flop. And then that led them to being able to play on the Ed Sullivan Show, which was the show to watch at that time. And that performance brought Beatlemania over to America. And then the rest of 1964 was kind of just like dub after dub for them. A Hard Day's Night, their album, which was both an album and a movie, which I watched on the plane from Canada back to North Carolina, and that was really, like, it was a fever dream, to be honest. It was really funny, but it was, yeah, anyways. So all of their albums get released and then immediately hit number 1 spot on the charts. It was, no joke, insane. And then, yeah, so 1965 and 1966 were pretty chill years. And this is kind of telling because the Beatles are sort of getting tired of like the album tour routine. So they started to chill out a bit. And then their next film, Help, was released this year, and it was also a hit. And then their first experimental album, Rubber Soul, was released at the end of 65, which led to their album Revolver. Sorry, I just need to pull it out again. I'm just gonna hold this. Revolver is just a beautiful album. On here, I wrote Revolver, my favorite, my baby, I love her, not as much as Magical Mystery Tour, but that was me 3 or 4 months ago when I was writing this, and that has changed. Revolver is my favorite album, and oh my god, the super deluxe version got released like 3 weeks ago, and that was the highlight of my day. Genuinely, I had an aneurysm, and I tweeted so many things just as I was listening to it, because I love the Beatles. I love them so much. It's kind of annoying at this point for me. I don't know. It's been annoying for my friends for a while now. But it's been annoying for me for like the past month. But I can't fucking stop thinking about them and listening to their music, and it's just like, I love the Beatles. Anyways, so 1967 was the year of their 2 best albums, which technically, musically, yes, they are the best, but I love Revolver. Anyways, Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band and Magical Mystery Tour were released this year, and they are so good. They are like I think where they peaked, like, experimentally and musically. But yeah, their bestie manager, Brian Epstein, he died this year. And then here I wrote, let me fact check that, and then in parentheses, yes, he did. But yeah, so Magical Mystery Tour was accompanied by this hour-long special that was watched by like 15 million people on live TV, which is pretty freaking insane for 1967, because 15 million people tuning in to something airing on live television is unheard of nowadays, I think. Unless it's like the Super Bowl or whatever. I don't give a shit about that anyways. But unless it's like something like insane in like in like a worldwide or even nationwide culture, 15 million people, I don't think they usually tune in to something like that. I also could be wrong about that, but anyways, the 1968 rolled around, and that was a year of like spiritual exploration. The four of them spent a while in India, where they learned about transcendental meditation, which really shifted their minds and their music. And all of this, like this trip was spearheaded by George, who was the super spiritual one. He really like got into all of that. But some tension grew in the group after this trip, because George was really into it, and George really wanted the other three to be into it with. Where was I? Okay, wait. So I was talking about George, and I don't know where I got cut off. So basically George, he spearheaded the whole trip to India, and it wasn't great because George was really into it, and you know, like that was his whole thing, his whole shtick. It was being like the spiritual one, and he wanted the rest of the band to get into that, or at least to like experience it and like learn more about it, so they had more of an appreciation for the craft, I guess. But yeah, so they also started their new company, Apple. Not the electronic company, but their recording studio, like label, I think it is. I have an example of it, because on this record, you see the Apple. This was pressed after 1968. I think this was original from 1972. So, thanks to Josie for getting this record for me, because it is like literally my prized possession. Anyways, their last album came out this year, the White Album. It's actually named The Beatles, but everyone just calls it the White Album. And everyone is like so obsessed with it also, but it's not, I don't think it's good. I don't particularly like it. I mean, I will listen to it because I will listen to any of the Beatles. And so all of their music is good, but I don't like the White Album. So it's 1969, and it was not a great year. It started off with 3 weeks of the Beatles preparing for their actual very last live performance, because a while back they vowed to never do a live performance again for a multitude of reasons. Some of it being like they were too tired, some of it being like Beatlemania had gotten to a point that it was like actually unhealthy and unsafe. So they decided not to do any more live performances, and my hair is looking really weird right now. Sorry. I don't know, I cut layers, and everything is going on with my hair right now is weird. Anyways, so there's a whole documentary on these 3 weeks of them preparing for their last live performance. And then George Harrison quit the band in the middle of that, and then came back to the band after some persuasion. And then the performance, it was the rooftop performance, included some new songs and whatnot, and it's so basically, also the documentary is called Get Back, and there's a album called Get Back, the Get Back sessions, I'm pretty sure, and it's really good. Don't Let Me Down is my favorite from the performances. Anyways, so a while later, same year, Abbey Road is released. It is their last studio album. Why did I say that? Oh, no, the White Album was the last album to come out in 1968. I had said in this video that it was the last album ever. No, Abbey Road was their last studio album. And then once that was released, John decided to leave the band, but he didn't announce it publicly, so it was a quiet exit. He left like that, and no one really like knew why. But yeah, so then 1970 rolls around, and then Paul leaves the band, which kind of means the entire band is sort of done for, because Paul and John were like the main people in the band. And then this gets into the whole thing with Yoko Ono breaking up the band, which I will get into in my spiel later on. So 10 years later, in 1980 is when John Lennon was shot by a crazy fan. He was really pissed about, I'm reading this off. He was really pissed about the fact that the Beatles were more popular than Jesus, and all of their songs had Christian elements. Basically, also he was really inspired by Catcher in the Rye. I feel like I should know more about the assassination of John Lennon, but I don't, surprisingly. And then George Harrison died in 2001, and I sadly don't know. Let's see, how did George Harrison die? I'm pretty sure it was something medical. Yeah, lung cancer, I knew it. Yeah. And so now, in the year of our Lord 2022, we only have Ringo and Paul, but they are having the time of their lives. Paul is on tour. Ringo is also on tour, I'm pretty sure. Ringo constantly posts feet pics on his Instagram and Twitter, and I don't think he realizes the repercussions of that. Luckily, he doesn't have any more background checks that he needs to do, because like if he was applying to college and he was applying for jobs and stuff, and then like their employer or the school did like a background check on him, and they saw that he has posted his feet pics on the internet, he'd be done for. And everyone is really worried because he's like an old senile man now, and he doesn't really know that feet pics on the internet is a bad thing. But yeah, so that's like the end currently of this manifesto. But I have a little list of side notes. So 1, this doesn't include the many arguments that they had, and the many like, oh, I'm leaving the band, oh, blah, 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 and then no, I'm gonna leave the band, and no, oh, no, we're back together, like, it didn't include any of that, but there's a lot of that. It didn't include any of the times that one of them left and then came back, like I said. This did not, they did not include anything about their insane, like, personal and romantic lives. This is really just truly, like, you know. Anyways, 4, Yoko Ono, here I said fucking ass. I really dislike her. I really dislike her just because I don't like her music, but as a person, I think she's fine, and I have my little spiel about her. I mean, no, she's also, like, not as a person, it's like, she's done some shitty things. Rewind, fucking ass, I really dislike her is still true. And then 5, anything about their British Empire medals that they were awarded, and I'm pretty sure John or Paul, I think it might have been Paul, gave his back. I don't know. But, and then last note is that I love Ringo Starr. That's, yeah. So, now about Yoko Ono. To preface this, I truly do hate John Lennon, and some would say that he deserved all this shit, but regardless of who she did this to, it's all awful. So, first things first, John had a son with his wife before Yoko, and she completely disregarded him. She referred to him as the mistake child, and then the kid that she had with John as the planned one, which is like really fucked up. And hello. Next, she slept with John while he was married, but also John ended up cheating on Yoko with their assistant, so it's like a weird, like, they're both kind of like a terrible person sort of thing, which is kind of like, I don't know, that's just kind of how it be in the in the Ono-Lennon household. Next, Paul politely asked after John had died to change the credits in some of their songs from Lennon-McCartney to McCartney-Lennon on the songs that McCartney was actually the sole writer of, and she said no. And to stop rewriting history, which is not, it's not rewriting history, it's literally just how the credits should have been credited. It shouldn't have been Lennon-McCartney, it should have been McCartney-Lennon, because McCartney was the only right, anyways, I digress. Finally, she used John Lennon's death as like a cash grab, essentially. Her first solo album, right after he was murdered, she used a photo of his bloody glasses as the album cover, which is so weird, like actually batshit insane. And she did a lot more batshit insane things, But the thing is, I dislike her because of that. A lot of people, especially the male audience of the Beatles, which is actually, it's majority male, and you know, I'm not gonna be that person who like yawns in the middle. No. On Reddit, on slash like r slash Beatlemania or r slash, I don't know if r slash Beatlemania exists. I just know r slash Beatles circle jerk. But yeah, they really don't like Yoko Ono on there because they think that she broke up the band, which she didn't. I mean, like, maybe she had a part in it that like is so minute that it doesn't even like matter. But some people think that she's the sole reason why the band broke up, and it's not. I think it's just misogyny. They're just projecting their misogynist ideals onto Yoko Ono, who maybe deserves like the backlash, but not the misogyny. You know, if that makes sense. But yeah, that's pretty much my spiel. That's my thing. I called it a manifesto. It's not really a manifesto because it's not original. I think a lot of people have done this before, and a lot of people have done it so much better than I have. But regardless, that was that. I hope you guys enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed filming it. It was really fun. It was actually really frustrating because my phone kept running out of storage, and so I deleted a lot of messages and literally all of my videos. Anyways, I hope to be back with another video in some reasonable amount of time. Give it like 2 weeks. Give it 2 weeks. If I haven't posted another video within 2 weeks, I think it's safe to say that I'm probably gonna come back in another like 6 months with like completely different hair and like, anyways. That was that, and I hope you guys enjoyed, and you should like, and you should subscribe, and you should not hit the post notification button because the only notifications you will be getting will be every year when I post one video saying I'm gonna be back, and I'm not. Also, it doesn't matter because no one watches me other than my friends, which is fine. But I really do hope I make it big one day. I don't know. So I'm gonna go and edit this because I find a lot of joy in that. And I will catch you guys on the flip side. Goodbye. Also, everyone should listen to the Beatles. Regardless of who you are, you should listen to the Beatles because I told you so. I told you to. And obviously, all of my opinions are correct. And you should follow them. So, thank you. Everybody has except for me and my monkey. Everybody been building.